Burgerflation, Subway smart fridges, and mixed news for marketplaces. That's all ahead on this week's Monday Minute. Monday Minute works like this. We're going to ask each other 5 questions about headlines that have caught our attention about the world of restaurants, technology, and off premise that in some way backed our book, Delivering the Digital Restaurant. Are you ready? Let's go. Happy Monday, Meredith. How are you doing today?
Happy Monday. I'm doing very well. And also happy Thanksgiving. What are you grateful for?
I'm literally just off the plane from coming back from 10 days in the Middle East over in Saudi Arabia and Dubai at the Global Restaurant Leadership Conference. So I guess I'm grateful, first of all, to be back and not delayed so that way you can have our Monday Minute go out this week. But quite honestly, I'm just grateful for everything that we're seeing in our industry right now. We're seeing a lot of really exciting things. Digitization continues aplenty in so many different areas. And it's nice to hear that people continue to want to hear from you and I. Looking forward to this week.
Fair enough.
All right, Meredith. So, first question is for you this week. We've seen in the international marketplace environment a few exits. Deliveroo are leaving Australia, and Zomato, I think, are leaving where I was just at in Dubai in the UAE. What do you think is going on?
I think it just represents more of the same in terms of startups retrenching to focus on their core, drive to profitability by not being so far afield. Deliveroo, of course, is a UK company. Getting out of Australia refocuses them back where they are strong. They did also mention in the article that they are leaving the Netherlands, which isn't quite as far away from the UK, but is another adventure for them. So I think that's what most of this represents. Same thing for Zomato. They are from India, and so retrenching from the Middle East, really focusing on where their business began, gives these companies the opportunity to demonstrate that they can get to profitability. We also note in the book that most markets, whether geographical or verticals, end up with two marketplaces at most, right? Part of this retrenching is probably healthy in terms of driving those markets to two big marketplace players. Okay, Carl, and then for you, burgerflation. That's quite a phrase. This was mentioned in the Toast Q3 report. And tell us what you thought about that.
Burgerflation. I like that kind of term. I think it's definitely one that I hopefully will catch on. Toast have done one of their quarterly reports, and I always like to see what they're seeing because they've got such a wide range of restaurants on their platform now. In fact, so let me do this, Meredith. I'll bring up the representation here. And there's a few things that I'd like to touch on. Let's start with burgerflation, as you say. First of all, I was surprised to see the Northeast is where, in the US at least, cheeseburgers are the most expensive, $12.40, as you can see, and obviously in the West, $12.29. So the thing that stood out for me most about this term burgerflation is the price of a cheeseburger has gone up 20% in just 3 years. So it's showing the inflationary effect and the way in which that's impacting that particular product. Of course, it's probably one of the most notable products that people are eating across the country. The report continues to then talk about tipping. I think you might remember from Q2 when we said Californians are not the best tippers. So there we are. Look at that. Bottom of the table here, Meredith. But the folks over in your office with Empower in Indiana, look at this, 21%. The last thing I'll say is look at this, cuisine types. We were always talking about niche cuisines. And when you look at the same store year-on-year sales growth for Q3, Chinese 11.3, Thai 11.2, and Middle Eastern 8.8. Now, maybe they're operating off a slightly smaller base, but I think this is really encouraging, again, especially in the food delivery world, which is showing that customers are really looking for more niche-orientated cuisines and something that differentiates themselves from the thousands of other restaurants out there that are perhaps more generic in their category. All right. So the next question here is for you, Meredith. We are seeing some really interesting results from the marketplaces, both Uber, DoorDash, in fact, Olo now being public, of course, have revealed their results. And at least according to the Uber CEO, there's no signal or sign of any slowdown happening anytime soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought all of these reports were very interesting, and I thought the way that Kristen Holly at Expedite summarized them also very good. She's very funny in the way that she wrote. There's been so much going on that even the CEOs of these companies almost seem surprised by the fact that the growth has continued. I don't know that I would go quite so far as to say that they've been surprised by this, but you would think as the pandemic recedes, as inflation goes up, consumers would start to become more price sensitive and they would start to perhaps engage in behaviors less often that could be considered not crucial. And delivery might be one of those things. And instead, what we're seeing is DoorDash actually said the number of subscribers on the Dash Pass has gone up, right? So they're getting more people actively engaged. And that for those people who are joining, their behavior is basically the same as those who've been there for a long time. And so the frequency of orders continues to be very stable. And overall, between the two things, the delivery volume, gross order volume going over their system is up 30%. Now, they are adding a lot of new categories, and he doesn't really break out the difference between restaurant and non restaurant. But the fact that there's more people engaging in this behavior and that they continue to place more orders is very interesting to me and tells me that our consumer really values the convenience and is willing to pay for it, even in the face of inflation. Okay, Carl, Uber Eats is getting into the holiday spirit.
They,
What does that mean?
they sure are. It's a number of things. A number of things that they've been clearly busy in their product team over at Uber, and I think there's certainly some elements which are just little add-ons to the functionality, the user experience. So, for example, now you're seeing that customers are able to have a curation of different items that they're able to gift to people. So it could be a gift card, for example, which you can time the delivery of that gift card to arrive in someone's inbox, and actually just make it a little bit more custom, if you will. There are things around the alcohol sales aspect. You and I have always been surprised that alcohol doesn't perhaps have more of a dominant role across restaurant sales, even though now the functionality and the legalities of it are becoming a little easier in certain states. But now what they're able to do through the Uber Eats platform, at least, is allow customers to be able to compare the prices and the delivery times of different types of alcohol. But I think the thing that stood out for me most on this one was around the ability for a customer to engage with the platform and the merchant themselves. And the example in the article that we've got here is where if you're engaging with a bakery, for example, you might now be wanting to actually say, look, I'm actually after these types of cookies as opposed to the ones that you've got on the platform. And it allows then the merchant, which of course is the bakery in Uber Eats language, the opportunity to then be able to say, can they fulfill that particular order? So in that sense, it's quite an interesting development because the more a marketplace becomes dynamic, enabling a two-way conversation outside of guest complaints and things like that, the more they're going to be able to create a customized, curated experience for the guests. So who knows whether this is something we'll see outside of the holiday season anyway. All right, last thing up. I don't know why you've got this question. I always get these kind of questions. Subway smart fridges. Do I need to say anything more? This seems to be another form of automation hitting the industry. Tell us all about it.
I love it. It's basically a vending machine with a sandwich in it, but Smart Fridge is a very clever name for it. And to me, it represents a way to bring more convenience to consumers, right? So instead of having to walk all the way through DFW to find a Subway, you could have potentially a smart fridge right next to your gate that's being loaded by the restaurant that is in the whole other terminal, but much easier to get to. So, just another way in which restaurants are trying to meet this need of consumers for convenience, which I think is fantastic. It's not terribly different from things like Farmer's Fridge, which is a startup that has salads loaded into it, or in the Wow Bao vending machines that actually dispense a hot item. So, in that sense, this is becoming something that's more and more common. I think there's a lot of opportunity in vending, again, to bring a more convenient experience to the consumer. I'm interested to see how consumers react to it because, of course, Subway was the very first brand that really allowed consumers to walk along the line and co make the item with the employee the way that now so many do. Given that level of choice and freshness and the cues of being able to see the product prepared are part of the Subway brand DNA, I'm curious how consumers will react to getting something that's prepackaged where the cheese has already been decided for them. So that will be fascinating.
So in that sense, they're not that smart then. They're elementary school. We're not talking college type smart here. We've
Yeah,
always said that the term artificial intelligence gets overused quite a bit. I wonder if smart and automation is getting overused now.
it's not like you're at the kiosk as a consumer selecting your bread, your cheese, your sauce, etc., and then it's like being assembled in the back of the vending machine. Not yet. Subway, maybe soon.
All right. Thanks for that one. Oh, okay. That is it for this week's Monday Minute. As ever, I would love to hear what your thoughts are about the subjects we've shared this week. Anything that you agree with, disagree with, any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you have any ideas for what you'd like us to cover in a future edition, then please get in touch. But until next time, thanks for listening. The Monday Minute is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on all our social media Learn Dr. Livery channels. Thanks for listening.